welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo. Today we go to that 16th century fort of Gaul in the south of the country. Founded by the Portuguese in 1588, it was initially a fortification of mud and palm trees, ironically called Santa Cruz. But it was the Dutch who in 1649 raised it to a fully fledged fort. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is the best example of a fortified city constructed by the Europeans in South and Southeast Asia, reflecting European architectural styles and South Asian traditions. So the origin of the word Gaul is believed to be a derivative of gallo in Portuguese, meaning rooster, or even could be the Sinhala word gala, meaning a place where cattle was herded. And guess what? It was Ptolemy's world map way back in 125 AD that named this port one of the busiest, where traders from Greece, the Arab countries and China bustled in and out. And history has it that the fort also had a Franciscan chapel and a prison camp to incarcerate the Sinhalese who were against the Portuguese. With that little trip to Old Gaul, let's move to our exclusive lineup today on our People's Bank News Capsule. We have Director and CEO of First Capital Dilshan Veerasekara on the future of NBFIs, endurance cyclist Sarinda Unambur on the yeses and nos of cycling lanes, and the founder of Maya, Draupadi Veeraperuma, with her unique eco-ethical approach to pre-loved saris. We revert to another aspect of cancer in Cancer Awareness Month today on Selinko Life Let's Talk with volunteer at the Sri Lanka National Cancer Society, Dr. Shereen Amarasekara, and those who have been caring for patients with cancer, Sanjini Munavira and Gerald Deseram, while Sam Pereira of Pereira Hussein Publishers is back this week with his weekend reads. We are on the run today with lots to cover, not just these. So, let's move.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
We begin our People's Bank News Capsule today with a look at Sri Lanka's corporate earnings, which have plunged 52% year-on-year to 33.6 billion rupees in the 2020 March quarter, based on analysis of the 266 listed companies. However, bucking the trend were banks, food, staples and retailing, which showed gains. Sri Lanka's non-banking financial institution (NBFI) sector is tipped to record substantial losses and display the weakest performance in this decade. With the NBFI sector forming a substantial slice of the country's financial services industry, I asked Director and CEO of First Capital, who put out this report titled All Doom and Gloom for NBFIs, as to whether this doom and gloom would have a blanket effect on the entirety of the sector and what would be the way forward.
I think the important fact is that if you look at the asset distribution of the industry, we have 40 institutes in the NBFI sector. About 70% of asset composition lies in the top 10 companies. So there is absolutely no problem there. It's, I think, the bottom of the pile towards some of the smaller institutes who have small capital bases that will really be challenged. So I think the regulator itself has stipulated capital increases. So the minimum capital requirements go up from $1 billion currently up to 2.5 billion. The original date for compliance was the 1st of January 2021. Central Bank has now given a 12-month grace period for that. So even if you defer that, it would mean by early 2022 that all NBFIs should have a minimum capital requirement of 2.5 billion, in addition to the capital adequacy rates stipulated depending on how big their balance sheet size is. So I think that essentially is the answer to your question.
Meanwhile, Fitch Ratings too raised concerns on finance companies' ability to withstand losses, stressing that asset quality planes will manifest more acutely until 2022 and that 9 out of the 33 licensed companies are non-compliant with minimum capital requirements as at end September. The central bank stated that 8 of these licensed finance companies had been given time extensions to rectify the non-compliance. Have you experienced road rage when stuck in endless traffic jams and come across drivers who don't adhere to road rules? Would you like an alternative? How would you like to ride to work in a dedicated cycle lane? Cycling to work is quite the norm in Europe, and the Automobile Association of Sri Lanka, together with the FIA and Optimum Q, is on a campaign called This Is My Street to encourage more cycle lanes. Popping into the studio was endurance cyclist Sarinda Unambua, who told us why we should be having cycle lanes, but what really needs to be put in place if that's going to become a reality.
So it might not be able to be done in the way that it has been done in other countries for the very reason that you said. But what we could do is maybe provide some lanes on the by roads for people to be able to come to their offices in Colombo, into the city. But this provides another problem, is we are in a tropical country. So riding a bike to office and comes means you're going to be pouring sweat by the time you get there. So even officers will have to provide the infrastructure of giving people the opportunity, riding their bikes, parking their bikes in in allocated space, and having the opportunity to come and shower, get cleaned up, and then get to work. For most people, riding more than about 5 or 6 kilometers is quite a challenging thing in the morning. So some people may ride about 10 kilometers. But anybody who's commuting longer than that, you have to be in reasonable shape as well. So it comes coupled with, it's not a case of just jumping on a bike and riding to work. You have to be reasonably fit, which is a great way to become fit also if you're coming to work on your bike. And also be very, very cautious that there are some crazy motorists around and we don't want to get flattened on your way to office. So health and safety becomes a huge question mark here. So that's why I feel the by roads are better than the main roads.
But as Sarinda said, health and safety is paramount, and cyclists too would have to be trained about maintaining their bikes and following road rules. Now, what do you think? Are we ready for cycling lanes? Do write in to us, leave us a comment on our page, or email us on kaleidoscopeweekly1@gmail.com. We have to do something about making our air cleaner. It has been found that polluted air is killing 500,000 babies a year across the globe. Also, air pollution particles in young brains has been linked to Alzheimer's damage. With 90% of people breathing in dirty air, can you imagine the implications? The Colombo stock market has had a good run this month, keeping up a 1 billion rupee turnover over 30 consecutive days. But it did lose a bit of steam this week with the pandemic woes and constitutional debates slowing down the market. However, at close of market on Thursday, the indices moved up by 2.9%, with the daily turnover averaging 2.8 billion rupees. Last week, WTI oil was trading at $40.50 per barrel and gold at $1,893 per ounce. The price of WTI oil continues at a low of $40.48 per barrel. Spot gold falls slightly to $1,920 per ounce from a one-week high of $1,931 per ounce. Benjamin Franklin said an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So when for over 2 decades there have been 2,885 of tomorrow's leaders assisted with scholarships worth 166 million rupees, then that investment would surely have made inroads into contributing towards the young leaders of today. Selinco Life has been awarding Pranama scholarships for 20 years now, and marking this milestone, it added another 11 million rupees towards the education of another 160 brilliant young minds. The scholarships reward not just academic excellence in the grade 5, O and A-level examinations, but also excellence in extracurriculars including sport, drama, invention and creativity. Most South Asian women's wardrobes have saris. It's our cultural fingerprint, and even if we have lots and lots of them, we really don't want to dispose of our saris. Now here's the answer. Maya, a new story, is founded by a woman who sees lots of possibility in those 6 yards. She upcycles pre-loved saris into becoming pieces of pure magic. But that's not all. Draupadi Veeraperuma infuses women's empowerment into Maya by employing seamstresses from low-income families, by ensuring minimum wastage from these recycled saris, by turning out not just skirts, blouses and dresses, but clutch purses and other small items, even having her packaging, which is 100% recycled, produced by women in need.
When you're a South Asian woman, you've got so many saris stuck in your cupboard, which you might wear once or twice in your lifetime. And because of that, I thought, when I came across this concept, I was really I started experimenting it on my own, and a lot of friends and family liked it, which is when I thought there might be more people interested in buying this kind of reused saris, pre-loved saris in a new creation. When you give a skill to a woman, they can always take it to a next level. So the women who are working with me right now are ones that can't go to work every day. They have children, they've got some kind of a parent with a disability or something, but they can do something at home. So what I did was I gave them small items I taught them how to create these small items, and now they come back to me with new ideas, and it's quite encouraging sometimes. I want to create a network for people, for women who can be skilled and to be able to work from home. Also perhaps set up a small station in my own home, so that if anyone wants to commute to my place to work in that workstation, in case they don't have their own equipment and so on. So that's the grander plan.
So there's a true ethical approach to spinning those 6 yards of fabric into a completely new story. On the subject of sustainability, if you're one of those who have loved playing with those tiny little plastic bricks that lend so much to the imagination, Lego is spending £310 million to transform its brick from plastic into sustainable materials. Their goal is to find a solution by 2030. Lego uses 90,000 tons of plastic annually to manufacture those tiny bricks. It's a boy. The Boston Zoo welcomed its first baby gorilla, a male weighing 6 pounds 3 ounces. Mum Kiki delivered the baby by cesarean section. There are beauty contests for pumpkins too. Tiger King, a 2,350-pound pumpkin, won the Safeway World Championship Pumpkin Weigh-Off. Tiger King also set a record for the heaviest pumpkin grown in North America this year. Well, Halloween is in October, so I guess pumpkins have their say. And that's our People's Bank News Capsule this week. We'll be back with Dr. Shereen Amarasekara, Gerald Deseram and Sanjini Munavira on Selinco Life. Let's talk.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for a retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
A fortnight ago, Kaleidoscope featured Natalie Soiza on Selinco Life Let's Talk. Natalie, a photographer, was undergoing a double mastectomy at the time, and we are pleased that she's recuperating well. Also, she had a ray of sunshine after her days of doom and gloom, when one of her photographs was chosen to be exhibited in the United States in the Eyes of Main Street Festival. With October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I had a chat with Dr. Shereen Amarasekara, a volunteer at the Sri Lanka Cancer Society who has a master's in community medicine and has worked in New Zealand, especially in cervical and breast cancer screening programs. I asked her, what are the first signs of breast cancer?
I mean, if you get a painless lump, which may or may not be attached to the skin, or skin discoloration or puckering of the skin, or even retraction of the nipple with a bloody discharge are some of the signs of breast cancer.
So what should women, and men of course, be aware of? Basically, who is vulnerable?
In men, breast cancer is not as prevalent as it is in women. And in women, there are a number, as I said, a number of risk factors. One is alcohol. There's alcohol, obesity, then prolonged use of the combined pill, hormone replacement therapy. Those are a few risk factors. If you have a family history of a mother, sister, maternal aunt who have had cancer, that increases your chance of having breast cancer.
How often and at what age should we get tested?
We would recommend is that from the age of 20, you start self-examining yourself so that you are akin to the changes in your breast, and you would be able to pick up a lump much faster, or if there's some difference in the appearance of your breast, you'll be able to pick it up faster because you've been doing it longer. For mammograms, which is the international screening method, we recommend from 45 to 69 years, right? We recommend that a mammogram is done every 3 years. After 70, it's done at the recommendation of your doctor. However, again, if you have a family history of breast cancer, we recommend that from the age of 40, you start getting a mammogram every year.
While there is focus on the patient, the carers who look after and are around the patient with cancer generally get minimum attention. Whether it's a spouse or a parent, life can get pretty tough for the carer. How do they cope? Gerald Iseram was hit out of the blue when his wife Kisani was diagnosed with cancer when she was just 45. His son was 12 and his daughter was 15. In just 6 months, she passed away. This was 3 years ago. Gerald goes over that time with me. Gerald, what did you and the children go through while looking after Kisani?
From the time she was diagnosed to the time she passed away, it was only a matter of 6 months. So, but in that 6 months, it was very intense and very, it was telling on the children. And, you know, personally, I had my own health issues which I had to deal with at the same time. My son got dengue at the same time, so everything came in all at once. So it was very, very intense. But we managed to muddle through, and we had a lot of support. I had support from my church group, the Rotarians that Kisani was a member of, the Rotary Club. They were very, very supportive, not only of me, but also of the children. Everybody just closed ranks and gave us a lot of support. So what I would encourage amongst people who know other families that have had to go through this trauma is that they do likewise. And it's not just a question of picking up the phone and saying, "Hi, how are you? Is everything okay?" I mean, I think if you're genuinely giving help to a family like this, you need to go out of your way, visit them, take the kids out, you know, for a movie, that kind of thing. You know, it needs to be hands-on. One word of advice that I would give to any spouse, if be it male, female, whatever, but any spouse who survives the other and who has small kids, you know, young adolescent kids, is get as involved as you can with any other activities. Don't not be busy.
What's the biggest lesson you learned through this whole process?
You learn to cope. You learn to get on with life. And you know, if you're someone who's tending to get into depression and all that kind of stuff, don't get busy and don't think negatively about it. So that's one thing. Secondly, it's the resilience of the kids. It's actually amazing. The moment this happened, they just banded together, you know, the siblings came together, and they have actually been an inspiration for me. They gave me a focal point in my life that I needed to provide for them and, you know, not roll over and you know, give up in front of them. And I don't know, for whatever reason, they have not given up on life either. They have just carried on.
Sanjani, Shehani and Johan's mum had cancer for 20 years, while their dad had pancreatic cancer, though going through it for a lesser number of years. But the toll of looking after not just one patient, but two, was truly unimaginable. Sanjani, what did the family go through while looking after your parents?
One of the bigger challenges at the start, in '96 when mum was diagnosed first, was the financial pressures that we went through. But thereafter, it was all about how do you juggle. Every day is different, every time she got up out of it, it was different. So how do you juggle all of that? How do you give her the support that you are supposed to give, not fall apart, be strong, be objective, not get emotional? Those were some of the challenges that we had.
So what's the support you got, or what support would you have also liked to get?
We had access to this lady that talked us through some of the things that were going to happen. There was a doctor, a friend of my brother's overseas. She would tell us what was happening next, which is something that we didn't have access to here, because we don't know what to expect. You are overwhelmed and you're frantic, and you don't have somebody talking you through the different stages. That's the support that we got from two people overseas, and I think that we are really grateful for that. Also, your immediate ecosystem. So there are times that you can't really be hands-on. You need people, and we had a lot of support from our friends, especially from my dad's bosses. They were fantastic, from financial all the way to emotional support. Family who were there on call at any point. So that's something that we did get, but something that I think that we lack solely here in Sri Lanka is counseling, access to good counseling, looking into that whole concept of wellness, because it's not just about the disease, it's about how do you cope with it overall as the person who's going through it, plus also the family going through it. How do you cope? What is it that you cannot do? How do you do things? What's the infrastructure that's available? Those are things that we don't know.
What advice would you give others whose parents are going through the whole process of cancer or have been through?
So you have to be really patient. There are good days. It's like you wake up every day going into battle. You can't get angry. Because the patient is going through multiple emotions. They are going through depression, they are going through insecurity, they are not sure if they're going to be dying tomorrow. So all of that combined, you have challenges in dealing with them. So you have to be really, really patient. You have to read up, you have to know what's going on. You can't pretend that you don't know, so you have to check on the medications. I used to have a list, and I used to check every single medicine, counter check it, check the side effects of what's happening, so that I can be prepared, and my brother and I could together deal with anything that was coming to us. So that is something that I think we have to be ready for.
So what's the biggest lesson you have learned through this process?
Resilience, because it's different each time, each day it's very different. When mom got sick, we thought dad was going to go down the same road, but his illness was more intense and shorter period. Mom would look at it like she was a champion, but I think that's what I learned, looking at her faith, the fact that she was able to smile through everything. So that's something I learned personally, and that's how I anyway deal with life.
While thousands more families are going through similar experiences, some more harrowing than others, the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, while doing immense work in increasing awareness of cancer, also has the 32-bed Shanta Sevana Hospice for terminally ill cancer patients and the 83-bed Bandaranayaka Memorial Cancer Homes for transit patients receiving treatment at the Maharagama Cancer Hospital. The Society also provides a lifeline to 125 needy patients released from hospital with monetary assistance to purchase drugs and gain self-sufficiency. And of course, to do all this, donor funding is very important, as it takes about 75 million rupees to do all this. So any donation is most welcome. With that, I say thank you to our guests on Selinco Life Let's Talk, Dr. Shereen Amarasekara, Gerald Desaram and Sanjini Munavira.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for your retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
We'll be back with Singer Life in 60 with your weekend reads with Sam Pereira, who's got some super books in hand, a real treat. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade, they say. But when life gives you books, just read, read, read. Co-founder of Pereira Hussein Publishing House, Sam Pereira, is back with some pages of magic he's stashed away in his bag of books for the weekend on Singer Life in 60.
We are all convinced that Sri Lanka is a beautiful country and that is why we live here. However, most of us don't have the time to get out into the countryside, and the traffic buildup is so horrendous it doesn't encourage us to do so. Michael Surja, in his book Motorcycling Adventures in Sri Lanka, advocates getting onto a motorbike to discover the back roads and side roads of our beautiful country. It's a marvelous book written by the author and photographs by him. I advise you to take a tip and go on a road trip. The Firebird by Chitra Fernando is a marvelous story for children, illustrated by Panchali Ellapola. It tells a story about how a little girl hears a tale about a magical firebird and wants to go to the land of the firebird. She gets lost in the land of the firebird and her brother goes looking for her. People ask me whether I publish only my friends, and sometimes it seems that way. I have known Sunela Jayawardena for a long time, and when she wrote her book, her first book, I felt compelled to publish it. The Line of Lanka is a marvelous story about the mythical and real travels in Sri Lanka, and it will tell you about a Sri Lanka that you have not discovered or had forgotten all about. It is a book worth reading and a journey worth following.
The wise Dr. Seuss said, "The more you read, the more you will know. The more you know, the more places you will go." And that's what we all do when we have a book in hand. Travel the world, go places, see things and write our own stories. Thank you, Sam Pereira, for sharing your weekend reads in Singer Life in 60. So don't forget, we'd like your opinion on whether bicycle lanes are a good idea in Sri Lanka. Do write in your comments on our YouTube link or let us know on Kaleidoscope Weekly 1 at gmail.com. If you'd like to see our past Let's Talk Life in 60 and News Capsule clips, they are all on our playlists on our YouTube channel. And do click on the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo, and press the bell icon to remain updated. So until next week, COVID-19's community spread has begun. Please wear your mask, wash your hands, avoid crowded spaces and keep everyone safe. Now, here's your Kaleidoscope weekly takeaway. Safety first is safety always.